Hey guys, it's Jake here with etrailer. Today we have a 2019 Ford F-450 and we're going to be taking a look at, I'm going to show you how to install the Firestone dual air command air compressor. This is an onboard air compressor that's designed to be paired with a set of airbags that you put on the back axle to help you to add and subtract air from the bags when you're hauling different loads down the road. I'd say the biggest thing that separates this compressor from a lot of other compressors on the market is going to be that it has a dual path design. So you can air up each airbag individually. So if you have a rigging truck or if you have an uneven load in the bed of the truck, you can air up one side more than the other. Another thing that this is going to help with is sway control. If you're having a lot of problems with sway, it's probably because the sway is starting in the bed of your truck. The truck is rocking from side to side when you're going down the road. Wind is tipping the truck, so then the truck is adjusting the trailer. This can help you to put different air in the bags so that you can control it a little bit better. This is what the system's going to look like when it's mounted up. You'll have your compressor right here and your ECU right here, which is essentially just the module that controls where the air goes and what will connect to your phone via Bluetooth. This bracket kit does not come with the compressor kit, but I highly recommend getting it because this made it so much easier to mount it up. If you don't get this, you either have to make your own bracket or you're going to have to put some self-tappers through your frame rails. The only way I would not use this bracket kit is if I was putting this like inside a toolbox or somewhere in the bed of the truck, then you wouldn't necessarily need this, but this bracket is designed to mount a compressor and the module up onto the frame rail. Comes with the U-bolts and everything. It bolts right up. Another big difference between this kit and a lot of others that I really like, because you're adding the compressor to the vehicle anyway, some of the other kits online you'll see that they'll have an auxiliary tank, which that's not a bad idea to have. But this one is going to have an auxiliary Schrader valve on the outside. And what you can do, you take the included hose, you simply clip it on here, lock it into place, and now you can go into your app, turn on the auxiliary compressor, set the PSI to the desired ending goal, and you can air up whatever you want. So if you have a bike tire, some sporting equipment, if you have a golf cart with you at the campsite, you can set that PSI rating to whatever you want, turn on the compressor, hold this onto your tire or whatever you're trying to air up, and the compressor will stop when it reaches that desired PSI. This compressor is going to be rated for up to 150 PSI, which when paired with the Firestone red label bags, they're also going to be rated for up to 150 PSI. Something to keep in mind is that these compressors are very small, so you have to give them time. They will have a work cycle duty, or a work duty cycle. You'll want to give them a little bit of a break. If you're going up to 80 PSI in your bags, which is very common, the trailer we're hauling with this truck it's 15,000 pounds. It's a toy hauler, 15,000 pounds empty. When it's fully loaded down, it can get all the way up to 20,000 pounds. So this is going to require quite a bit of air in these airbags. So if you're airing up to say 10 PSI to haul a small lawn trailer or something like that, that's not going to take any time at all, maybe a couple seconds. Any PSI, from my experience, any PSI over 50 PSI is going to take quite a bit. So I recommend bumping it up to 50, and if you're trying to get to say 90 PSI in your airbags, bump it to 60, let it reach 60, and then bump it 10 at a time, and just give the compressor a little bit of a break, because after all, it is a small compressor, and if you overwork it, you could end up burning it up. Now with that, if you choose to go with this option because of the auxiliary port, which it's a very handy tool, just keep in mind that if you're going to use it to air up larger tires like these big tires on our F-450, they're going to have 110 PSI rating. Same with our camper, they're rated for 110 PSI. I would not recommend using this compressor for that auxiliary port to air something up like that. If you want to use it to air up anything, I'd say maybe under 50 PSI, I think you'd be okay. But just keep in mind you want to take care of that compressor. Now the way that you're going to control this system is you're going to use your phone. This is the only option to be able to control this. You don't get a remote in the kit, you have to use your phone. So I would say that's the only downfall of this kit is if your phone were to die. It runs off Bluetooth, so you don't have to worry about having service. But if your phone were to die, you'd have to try to sync up somebody else's phone to your airbags. But as long as you've got the air in there, the app will not, if your phone dies, it's not going to adjust the air. The air will stay the same, and you can always go back. If you have manual inflation valves on the back, you can always go back to them and add or subtract a little bit of air until you get your phone charged back up. Now, as far as the installation goes, it's not too bad at all. Running the lines is not too hard. It is a lot easier when you have it on a lift, so if you have access to one, that's definitely gonna help you. If nothing else, you can put the back end of the truck up on a set of wheel ramps. It'll give you a little bit more room to be able to work under there. The F-450 sits pretty high, so you should be okay. I'm telling you, that bracket that we used made it at least half the time to get this system installed. But with that being said, let's go ahead and show you how we did it. Now, to begin our installation, we basically just need to find a spot on our frame rail here. And we found that right here is gonna work well for our distributor here. And then this space between this cross member opening and this sensor up here will be perfect for our compressor to be mounted up. Now, in order to get our compressor mounted up, you want to pop some of this factory wiring loose. We'll get it safe and secured after we get our compressor mounted. But we're going to slide this up. You want to slide it over the U-bolts. And the nice thing about this U-bolt kit is, or this no drill kit, is it's going to come with everything you need to get the compressor and the air distributor mounted up. Get those sticking through, and we'll follow it up with a couple of flange nuts. Now, if you decide to go with this bracket system, you'll want to make sure to tighten down each of these nuts evenly so you don't put too much strain or stress on these U-bolts. If you decide to just mount the compressor directly to the side of the frame rail, you can either make your own bracket. These are also designed to be self-tapped into the side of the frame rail. That is just a really big pain because these frames are really hard. So I highly recommend picking up this bracket or making your own to make it a lot easier on yourself. Now, for this type of mounting bracket, these two brackets will also come in your kit with the other ones. But you'll notice that these studs are pre-mounted to these black brackets. What I had to do is I ended up just beating the studs out of it, drilled a couple of holes, and then used the screws or the included bolts that come with the distribution box to mount it up to this. We'll follow those up with a couple more of those flange nuts. Now what we need to do is we need to run 3 air lines, one for the left bag, one for the right bag, and then one for our auxiliary to the back. I'm going to go ahead and do that and then come back and show you the route that we took to get there. The way we ran our air lines is starting here on the left. You're going to have labels on these. It'll be SUP, which is supply, which is going to be your compressor, left, right, auxiliary, and then we're going to have an exit route. Essentially what we need to do here is we have a short length, it's about 3 feet into our supply that we're going to run into our compressor once we get our fitting in there. And then our left, right, and auxiliary, we put gentle loops in here, ran them up, over, and then you just want to follow the top of the frame rail. And from the inside here, you might be able to see a little bit better. You can see here that we ran them up, following existing wiring, ran them up. And then once you get to the passenger side bag, you'll run it into a T, the one that you've got connected into the right valve. Run it into a T, run it down to the bag, and then continue on to the back of the truck. And then over here, you can see we went over top of our factory hitch, over top of the hat channel, came from our left side valve into a T, down into the bag, and then continued on to the back of the vehicle. The reason why we want to run these lines to the back of the vehicle is because we want to have 2 manual inflation valves back here in case the compressor stops working for whatever reason. You can still use your bags. You can inflate them and deflate them from these valves. And that auxiliary valve, I went ahead and used a different color line that actually came with our compressor. The black lines came with our airbags. We ran it back, and this is where they're going to be able to hook up to a compressed hose that comes with your kit, hook up to this, and then your compressor will continue to feed whatever else you're trying to fill up with air, whether it's a bike tire or some sporting equipment or whatever you have that needs air. You can use this valve for that. The last one we have to run is going to be our exhaust. This is used when we're letting air out of our airbags with our compressor. This is going to allow that air to escape out of the bags. When you're cutting any of these air lines, you want to make sure to have a nice straight clean cut. You can use a razor blade or we actually have airline tube cutters here. You can use that. You just want it to be straight so that it has a nice grip on it once it's inside there. Push it up, make sure it locks into place, and then we'll run this. We're gonna run this up over top of our compressor so that we can tie it off with our, we're gonna put our air filter up here. Now there's two fittings that'll come in our kit that we need to install on the compressor. The first is going to be our outlet. I'm gonna thread this on into our brass fitting here, and we're going to tighten it until you can't see any more of that thread locker. The other one is going to be our air filter inlet. We're going to pull this plug out and take our inlet there and thread it on. Now we can take our air filter. We'll take the rubber hose that will come in the kit, slide it over the air filter, and then you kind of want to mock up. They're going to give you a much longer length than this, but this is all we're going to need. You want to put it up in a nice high and dry place, so that's more than enough. We're going to zip tie it off to this mount up there. So we'll slide our other end over our inlet here. Now we can zip tie this off where it's nice and safe, up and out of the way. Now that we've got all of our air lines run, I can start running the wiring. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run it all. It's kind of boring to watch. Then we'll come back and I'll show you the best route that I found so that you don't have to take the time to find that route. I went ahead and got everything run. We have a connection down here we have to make. If you want to do it the easy way, you can just connect these right up together. I don't like this style of connector, especially being underneath the truck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these connectors off, and I'm going to use a heat shrink butt connector. If you don't have one, then you might as well just connect it with that connector, unless you pick up a set of butt connectors. Just make sure if you do it with that other connection, just put some electrical tape over it. We'll get these stripped back, get it crimped down. Then we're going to use a heat source in order to shrink this up. Now there's going to be one other wire. It's a black wire hanging out of your compressor that you'll need to self-tap into the frame. Now we've got our wire up inside our engine bay. There's going to be a lot of excess depending on where you mount your compressor. If you mounted it where we are, or where we did, you want to loop it up and just zip tie it off to something under the engine. You're going to have a yellow wire in the group of wiring. You will not need to use that. You'll have a negative wire and a positive wire. We're going to connect the positive wire to the battery post first. So we'll take a 10mm socket and get that installed. You want to be sure to not include the fuse when you're making this connection, because you run the chance of blowing it, and the chances of you having another fuse at home, it's not likely. Got that connected. Now we can do the same for our ground. The last thing we need to do is put our fuse in. Well guys, hopefully this video helped you decide whether or not the Firestone dual air command compressor is right for you in your 2019 Ford F-450.